So, good morning once again, dear students of ISC, that is classes 11 and 12. And today we are going to finish off with Salvatore, the last part of the short story. I am now going to explain to you. So, all of you, please follow what you see on your screen now. So, dear students, we continue from where we had left off in our second video on Salvatore. And I was telling you that Assunta and Salvatore were finally married and they settled down in a cottage by the sea, and Salvatore went fishing in his fishing boat, and rest of the time he looked after his vineyard, and presently children were born to them. So we continue from after that, from the very next paragraph which you can see on your screen. It was a hard enough life. Now, the life of a fisherman usually is a hard life because he has to go out into the sea, braving the waves, and he has to catch fish. Now, he may not be lucky always, and he may not be able to catch enough fish which he can sell in the market and earn his living. Sometimes the catch is good, the rest of the times he may have to return empty-handed. And then Salvatore, because he was suffering from this rheumatism, this physical problem because of which he had been discharged from the king's navy and had returned home, for him at times it could have caused him some difficulty. So it was a hard enough life. All through the fishing season, towards evening, he set out in his boat with one of his brothers for the fishing grounds. Now you must be wondering why it's given as grounds. Well, in the sea, even in the sea, there are certain areas which have better or large quantities of fish. And the fishermen, they basically know these areas. So they go out into the sea, and for this they have to go out at night. What happens is, during the night, the fish generally swim on the upper surface of the water, and the fishermen, they throw light into the sea water at times to attract the fish. Just as insects are attracted by bright lights, so also are the fish, and so it makes the job of catching them much easier. So he would take his brother and he would take his fishing boat. Probably Assunta had purchased that boat for him, as was discussed earlier in the story. And he was a hard-working man, Salvatore, very masculine, very strong, tall and broad-shouldered, very handsome to look at. And he was a hard worker, definitely. So this is how he would go to the areas which had more fish. Now, it was a long pull of 6 or 7 miles. Now you have to row the boat. And when you start from the shore, the waves are against you, because the sea waves, for those of you who have been to the seashore, you must have observed, or at least in movies and films and sometimes on television, that the waves of the sea have a tendency to come and crash upon the shore repeatedly. They keep on coming in rapid successions. And so when you start from the shore against the waves, you have to really struggle hard to make progress with your boat. And that is exactly what would happen. And then they would have to row the boat. It was not a motor boat, so there was no onboard motor fitted in this boat. So because it was not a motor boat, they had to row the boat, and they had to go a distance of about 6 to 7 miles out into the sea from the coast, from the coastline. And he spent the night catching the profitable cuttlefish. So basically he caught the cuttlefish because this particular variety of fish was popularly sold in the market and quite on demand, and so he would catch that kind of fish. Then there was the long row back again. Now once he finished catching, now see, first of all you row 6 to 7 miles, you brave the waves and you go out into the sea. Then you spend your energy in catching fish, and once you are through with it, again with the loaded boat, you have to row back to the coast. So it's altogether a very difficult task, and it's not like driving a vehicle or something, because here physical strength, physical ability is most important. So there was this long rope back again in order to sell the catch in time for it to go on the early boat to Naples. So why did they have to catch the fish at night? Because this fish had to be brought into the shore as early as possible so that they could load it in the bigger boat or steamer which would take it to the mainland, that is in Naples. Naples is a big place in Italy. It's a big city as of now, and in those times also, when this story was written, it was quite a big city. So there is a big market for fish in Naples, and so they had to reach on time so that they could give or hand over the fish, the catch of the evening or the night, very early next morning to the traders who would buy it from them and then take the entire lot of fish to Naples by steamer. So that is how it had to be. They had to struggle and they had to race against time. One had to be very punctual in order to achieve success in this entire operation. At other times, he was working in his vineyard. Now, it's not possible that you go out and catch fish around the year, because there is a fishing season. And certain governments in certain countries, coastal countries, they have certain regulations also that you are allowed to catch fish only when it is the fishing season. Otherwise, if you catch fish around the year, then what happens? The population of fish will start declining in the ocean, and you may not be able to get better catch in the next season. So that's the reason why there is a particular season for catching fish, maybe around when it is time for the monsoons or something related or pertaining to the breeding season of the fish, when you have more fish in the sea. So rest of the time, rest of the year, what would he do? He would spend his time in the vineyard. So he had a cottage with a vineyard, and he had rented it, and he was living there with his family. So he would look after the vines. The grapes would be growing, and because wine making is yet another important industry in Mediterranean countries like Italy and France and Portugal and Spain. So that being the reason, you find a lot of vineyards all along, even Germany, a lot of vineyards along the Mediterranean coast of Europe. So you have to see the map of Europe to understand how exactly these countries are placed. So at the end of this video, I'll try to provide you with the map of Europe and show you exactly the location of Italy and all the other Mediterranean countries in the northern part of the Mediterranean Sea. And I will also show you the image or the picture of fishing boats and maybe even the cuttlefish and maybe Naples. So whatever I can get my hands on with the help of the internet, I'll try to show you that towards the end of this video. So now let's continue with the story. So at other times he was working in his vineyard from dawn till the heat drove him to rest, and then again when it was a trifle cooler. Trifle means little bit. So at other times during the off season he would work in his vineyard from very early in the morning, because by midday it grows very hot, and so it is difficult for someone to work in the vineyard. So by midday he would go and take rest, and then again take up his work of looking after the vines, tending them, taking care of them. That he would take up once again when the sun would be a little less brighter, that is towards the end of the day, and he would work till dusk, that means till evening. Often his rheumatism prevented him from doing anything at all. So sometimes he had these bouts or fits of rheumatism because of which he was discharged from the Navy. And then he would not be able to move much, then he wouldn't be able to do any work. So that was something which used to happen, and he had got used to it, basically. Then he would lie about the beach, smoking cigarettes with a pleasant word for everyone. See how good he was, that even when he was in pain and was not able to do any work, his muscles and his joints were paining, his entire body was paining, he would lie down under the sun in the beach, and anyone passing by, he would give a gentle smile and speak to the person concerned. So this was his nature. He was, as I told you in my previous two videos, a man whose goodness was by far the most significant aspect of his character. So, for everyone, notwithstanding the pain that racked his limbs, the foreigners who came down to bathe and saw him there said that these Italian fishermen were lazy devils. Now, what do the foreigners know? They would pass such comments. They would come down there and they would see Salvatore lying down there. They would know from his looks that he's a local fisherman and he is a lazy fellow. That's what people would say. But they did not know how hardworking Salvatore actually was. But that did not make much of a difference. Salvatore would not quarrel with them, would not try to prove himself in front of them. So we move on to the next paragraph. Sometimes he used to bring his children down to give them a bath. They were both boys, so two boys. He was the father of two little boys. And just as he had two brothers when he was 15 or 16, his brothers were much younger, and he would take them out to have a bath in the sea, as we did in the beginning of the story. The same way, now it seems that the next generation has come up, and it seems that history is repeating itself. Now he would bring both his boys down to the sea coast. They were both boys, and at this time the elder was 3 and the younger less than 2. They sprawled about at the water's edge, stark naked, and Salvatore, standing on a rock, would dip them in the water. The elder one bore it with stoicism. Stoicism means kind of hardened tolerance. Okay, he was a bit reluctant to do it, but then father would not agree to it and would give him a bath nevertheless. But the baby screamed lustily, but the smaller boy, he used to feel very happy to be dipped into the water. The elder one was a little serious type and did not like it much that father was dipping him in the water and giving him a bath. 3 years old, remember? And the younger one, less than 2 years old, but enjoyed when he was dipped into the water. Salvatore had enormous hands. The palm of his hands were quite big. He was a big man, tall, stout, and handsome. So he had big hands, like legs of mutton, coarse. Why coarse? Coarse means rough. His hands were rough because he was a hard-working man, a manual laborer, you could say. So his hands were rough, not like the soft hands of a gentleman. So his hands were coarse and hard from constant toil. Constant hard work. Toil means hard work. But when he bathed his children, holding them so tenderly, drying them with delicate care, upon my word, they were like flowers. So he was so gentle with his two little kids. So that shows the inner softness or gentleness of Salvatore. His actions were too gentle and soft when he was handling the little kids. He would seat the naked baby on the palm of his hand and hold him up, laughing a little at his smallness. And his laugh was like the laughter of an angel. His eyes then were as candid as his child's. So you could see the amount of fun and frolic shining in his eyes. When he would hold up the baby, he would just make the baby sit on his palm, on the hand, and then raise the hand up and hold the baby up in the sky, and he would enjoy doing this. So he would laugh like an angel. So The author compares Salvatore's laughter to the laughter of an angel. He was angelic. He was so good. His goodness is by far without a match. So we move on to the next paragraph. I started by saying that I wondered if I could do it. So the author tells us that when he started this story, he had said this single sentence in the beginning, I wonder if I can do it. So that is what he's talking about now. And now I must tell you what it is that I have tried to do. I wanted to see whether I could hold your attention for a few pages while I drew for you the portrait of a man. So I was trying, says the author, to hold the attention of you, dear reader, for a few pages so that you should not stop reading. And I drew before you, through my words, the picture of a man, the portrait of a man, a word picture of a man, or an imagery of a man, if we may call it so. Just an ordinary fisherman who possessed nothing in the world except a quality which is the rarest. So the author finally sums up. We have come towards the end of the story now. And what is that rare quality, the rarest quality? The most precious and the loveliest that anyone can have. The most precious quality, the loveliest quality that anyone can possibly have. This man had it. This man had it. Heaven only knows why he should so strangely and unexpectedly have possessed it. Nobody knew why a man like Salvatore, living in this remote village in Italy, coastal Italy, happened to have such a divine quality. And what was that quality? He's coming to that. All I know is that it shone in him with a radiance, with a brilliance, with a brightness that if it had not been unconscious and so humble, would have been to the common run of men hardly bearable. So, he says that his quality of goodness was something Salvatore himself was not conscious of. He was not even aware of it, that he had this quality. And his humbleness, he was so humble that this quality which he had, people should feel pride, a sense of pride that I am a good man. He never felt it. He never even knew that he had that quality. He was what he was, and people realized that he was good. Haven't we seen him good in every step? When he was rejected in love, starting from when he used to take care of his little brothers, then when he fell in love and had to go away after his engagement, he did not complain then. He suffered from rheumatism, he did not complain then. He thought it was an opportunity for him to come back home and be reunited with the girl he loves. He returned home, the girl rejected him. He did not complain. He bore it with a smile, though there was pain in his heart. He did not blame her. He was not vicious. He was not revengeful. Then his mother talked about Assunta. Though reluctant at first, finally he agreed. He was obedient in that too. So whether it was the king's order, whether it was the rejection, whether it was his love towards his younger brothers, whether it was obeying his mother's instructions, and then finally marrying Assunta, and then they settled down happily ever after, there was no problem whatsoever. And that's the reason why Assunta appreciated him, loved him so much. And that's the reason why she criticized the girl from Gran Marina who had rejected him, because he was such a good man. So that girl from Gran Marina missed something which she would never understand or never even know. She had missed marrying a very proper, gentle, good-natured human being with whom she would have been the happiest. But she thought only about money. Wasn't Salvatore earning? Wasn't he taking care of his wife and his 2 sons? Wasn't he a family man? Wasn't he doing well in life? As a fisherman, wasn't he doing what any other fisherman was probably doing? He was. There was no problem at all. Life was good because he was good. So when you are good, everything around you becomes good. That's the message, and that's what the author is trying to say. However, Salvatore himself was not aware of it. He was so humble that he did not realize that he had this goodness in his nature. And in case you have not guessed what the quality was, I will tell you, says the author. I have already discussed. I have been discussing throughout the story while explaining. Now the author sums it up and he says, in case if you have still not understood what quality I am talking about, something which is divine, heavenly, which only Salvatore had but was not aware of, it is goodness. Goodness, just goodness. William Somerset Maugham, Salvatore, written in the year 1936. 1936, and we are discussing in 2020. Nearly 84 years later. So that's it. I hope you have understood the basic theme of this story. The character of Salvatore is what matters in this story, is what is most important in this story. The character of Assunta. So dear students, as promised in my video, I would like to show you once again a few pictures based on the story. Now here you can see the map of Europe, and as I zoom in, you can see Italy, which is in yellow somewhere in the center of the map, and Rome, the capital, is marked with a black star. And if you come down a little more, you can see Naples. So you have this peninsular structure of Italy, and so you can see that it is surrounded by the sea on all the three sides. So fishing is an important occupation for the people here. And not only here, the sea which you see down below, which is in blue, that is the Mediterranean Sea. It's written at the extreme bottom of your screen, and also on the top of Africa. You can see that there are these countries. You have Portugal, starting from your extreme left, Portugal. Then you have Spain, then you have France, and then you have Italy, and of course you have some more countries after that, all the way down to Greece. So you can see that these countries are all commonly found to be sharing the common coastline to the Mediterranean Sea, and so fisheries and also vineyards where grapes are grown is an important occupation. Now let's try to see something more. This is on your screen the picture of a cuttlefish. It's the cousin of a squid or an octopus, only that it does not have such long tentacles or limbs as the octopus, but it looks very similar to an octopus but much smaller in size. So this is the cuttlefish. This is the tiger cuttlefish because it has stripes like that of a tiger, or you may call it the zebra cuttlefish. So this is what Salvatore basically caught because this fish was quite popular among people in Naples. And then let's look at a vineyard. So this is a typical vineyard in Italy, and even Salvatore had taken on rent a cottage with a vineyard, and there the grapes generally grow like this, and these are all the grapevines, and you can see the black grapes here. You have the black grapes and you also have the green grapes. So there are two different varieties. Even in our country you can find it. So this is what Salvatore took care of. You can see that the vines are arranged in rows, and in the fruiting season you have the fruits growing. And then here is one more picture of the cuttlefish, this time from the front, and you can see its eyes and its mouth tentacles, and it swims